Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Human Rights Foundation's Dissidents and Dictators podcast. My name is Casey Michelle, and alongside my unstoppable co-host, Elisha Maldonado. Say hi, Elisha.
Unstoppable, that's right.
We've got a packed episode for you today, talking about everything from foreign interference to the official who has been named the most corrupt person of the year. So stay tuned, because this is going to be a good one. Elisha, how you doing today?
Better than your voice.
Oh, that's cold and true. I sound like I've swallowed a frog.
But it's cool.
Feels like there's a
got
gravel truck in my throat, and I am sorry in advance to all of our wonderful listeners who get to hear this for the rest of the episode.
I just think that's cool, that little growl there. And it's got a very Phoebe Buffet quality to it.
Phoebe Buffet quality. Phoebe Buffet, I know that name. Where's that name from?
From Friends. Smelly Cat.
Friends. Oh, the TV show Friends. Mm-hmm. Yeah, boy. Rest in peace to Matthew Perry.
Yeah, rest in peace.
That was a seminal show.
Yep.
That I never watched.
Well, I guess you missed out on a good chunk of cultural history.
Yeah, I apologize again for those choices
forgive it.
that I've made. No, the only piece of cultural history I really care about, and I'll tell you this, speaking honestly, speaking earnestly, Elisha, the only piece of cultural history, and it's not even history, it's ongoing, is the impact and the ongoing legacy of a singer, songwriter, actor extraordinaire. I think a lot of folks are going to know him.
I hope.
Named Mr. Harry Styles.
Harry Styles. Huzzah. He's now in our office.
He's in our office?
Yeah. In spirit and also in the form of a doll.
Oh, he's in the doll. That's who that is.
Yeah. We have Casey and I decided we needed another mascot in our office, and since we're always talking about Harry Styles, because why wouldn't you? I brought in a doll that a friend gave me for my 30th birthday, and it's a Harry Styles when he first became big, and it sings "That's What Makes You Beautiful."
He was in a band.
One Direction.
One Direction. That's
One
that's
D
right.
forever.
That's right. He's got that tousled hair and that voice from the gods. So shout out to our number one fan, Harry Styles.
Yeah, he kind of did He sent fans going crazy a little bit because apparently he shaved his head. speaking of tousled hair.
Oh, my goodness.
But hair grows back. It's grown back.
It does grow back.
Yeah.
I tell you. You know what's funny?
No.
I mean, it's a collector's item, right?
I mean, it's probably like the Beanie Babies, and you're all saving them and hoarding them.
Oh, absolutely. That's your nest egg. That's your nest egg right there.
That's my retirement.
That's your investment right there.
That's right.
Which is funny, because one of the things we're going to talk about today, and again, here's a segue for folks, is a nest egg, is collecting. Now, not dolls, not members of One Direction, but collecting foreign patrons.
Okay.
Foreign regimes, foreign kleptocratic dictatorships as patrons, as those that are fluffing your own nest egg. And I'm talking, of course, about a senator in the United States of America from the great state of New Jersey.
Good old bobbers.
A gentleman named Bob Menendez, who, according to American prosecutors, appears to be collecting foreign patrons, foreign kleptocratic regimes as paymasters over and over again.
Yeah, he's just up to no good all the time.
While a member in good standing of the U.S. Senate, oh, and by the way, also the former chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. This is Bob Menendez, who has apparently been collecting these regimes, pocketing them while filling his own pockets.
What's he been up to lately?
Well, lately,
what dirty dealings has he gotten up to?
He has been busy. He has been keeping himself busy, keeping his compatriots elsewhere busy. So a little bit of background
please.
About Bob Menendez, a long-standing member of the Democratic Party, long-standing senator, again, from the state of New Jersey. And he is one of the U.S. Senate's leading foreign policy voices. And again, I mentioned a moment ago, the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, which, if folks aren't aware, is the highest ranking foreign policy related position in the U.S. Senate. I mean, really, it's just a step down from the White House, helping direct financing of American foreign policy decisions, helping direct priorities in the U.S. Congress for foreign policy moving forward. One of the leading voices, really one of the titans of the American foreign policy establishment, except a couple months ago, there was a bombshell indictment against Mr. Menendez.
And you reported on this,
I did do some
for the Atlantic.
on this. Yes, I wrote about this for the Atlantic. And again, we could talk about as many of the details of the indictment, which is certainly well worth reading in and of itself. But I think pulling back, it's worth highlighting what these prosecutors are alleging. What they are alleging is that, in this case, the Egyptian government, the Egyptian dictatorship, had effectively turned Senator Bob Menendez into an alleged foreign agent, an alleged foreign lobbyist, an alleged ally in their pocket, doing their bidding amidst all of the other unsuspecting American legislators, American senators, in helping direct and craft pro-regime, pro-Egyptian, pro-dictatorial policies in the United States of America. It was the very first time in American history that prosecutors have charged a sitting official in Washington with these crimes of acting as an unregistered foreign agent, unregistered foreign lobbyist, doing the bidding of a foreign regime in this manner.
Do they say how Egypt managed to get to him?
They do.
Go on.
And again, these are all allegations waiting to be proven in the court of law. It is a fascinating, sordid affair, which again will include some links in the notes, in the show notes to this if folks want to read more about it. Apparently, and again, allegedly, they got to Senator Menendez not directly, not by reaching out, by giving him a phone call, sitting in his office, but by using a number of intermediaries, especially in the United States, to then get to the senator himself. They used a number of individuals based in the United States that are working hand in glove with Egyptian officials, who then targeted Senator Menendez's then girlfriend, now wife, a woman named Nadine Menendez, promising her what they called a, quote, low or no show job where she could make her own money on her own end if she went to the senator, to her boyfriend and now husband, and said, hey, would you be willing to provide some information about decisions, about votes, about priorities regarding Egypt, regarding U.S.-Egyptian relations, regarding what kind of policies can work for the betterment of the dictatorship, the military dictatorship in Egypt? That would be great if you could do that, honey. And, again, far be it from me to ever criticize a man in love or doing whatever, his romantic partner, certainly his wife in this case, does. God knows I go out of my way every day to do anything and everything my wife asks me.
That is a good husband job.
If she's listening, I'm sure she'll agree.
Yes.
I mean disagree vehemently.
If she wants to share via tweet, if that's true or not, she can definitely
I really hope my wife, my dear, sweet, loving wife, does not tweet at us.
Please tweet at us.
But what we saw was this transformation over the course of really just a couple years of Senator Menendez. And again, this is a guy who represents constituents in the state of New Jersey. What we saw over a couple years is apparently him becoming someone who viewed his constituency not as New Jerseyites or New Jerseyans or whatever they're called, but as the regime in Cairo itself. And again, this is not just, having a conversation, not just having meetings, but ghostwriting language, drafting text for Egyptian officials to then go to other unsuspecting American legislators to most effectively lobby them. This is providing information about how votes are going to go ahead of time. This is providing highly, highly sensitive information about the personnel working at the U.S. Embassy in Cairo, which, is a handy little piece of bucket of information for officials in Cairo to then potentially pressure those individuals, to turn them into spies, to pressure their families, so on and so forth. I mean, this is, any one of these would be concerning. But you take this in totality and you realize the scope of this scheme is beyond anything we've seen, in this case, in American history. And again, he's not some no-name backbench official in Congress.
He's as high up as they can get.
He is as high up as you could possibly get. And again, this is all without us having any understanding of just how far it actually went. How much classified information this alleged foreign agent was privy to, could have potentially shared on his own end as well.
And it also seems now that he's branching out from Egypt, and or reportedly, allegedly.
Yeah.
And so it also looks like he's not just keeping to Egypt, reportedly. The Times has a piece saying that he is now has been working reportedly with Qatar.
Yes, he has. This was a new information added to the most recent indictment against Senator Menendez just a week or two ago, that he was also working on behalf of Qatari interests in Washington, again with some of the same individuals he'd been working with on behalf of the Egyptians. I mean, I think And again, this is going to go to trial in a few months. We should presumably, unless there's a settlement, should presumably have more information about some of these networks that were cultivated around, and obviously including Senator Menendez himself. But I think the reality that there's now a second country, a second regime, highlights the fact that these networks are all too often not isolated, not acting in a vacuum, and unfortunately not limited to any one regime or any one government itself. All too often, these foreign agents, these foreign lobbyists are working on behalf of a range of regimes, a range of kleptocratic dictatorships. And again, I say that all too often, but I do think you just got to remember time and again that this wasn't a no-name nobody. This was the gentleman who was charged with steering priorities and financing in the U.S. Senate, who is now the very first alleged, charged as such, foreign agent in all of American history. We have never seen anything like this in U.S. history.
And it's interesting, too. I mean, the Times piece says that, he arrived in Qatar in 2022 to attend the World Cup. So it even spreads out the...
I mean, look, this is
dealings in a way because the World Cup is already, shady enough.
The Qataris are no. I mean, look at the American think tank community. Look at American universities. The Qataris are no stranger to getting their tendrils into all kinds of networks in the U.S. as well as elsewhere. But again, it was by no means limited to the Qatars or the Egypts of the world. This is over and over again. But I will say, just this is all very dire and gloomy. There were at least a little bit of fun elements in the indictment, if folks want to read through against Senator Menendez, such as when an Egyptian official responded to a text about Menendez information with, I believe they described it as a thumbs up emoji.
Oh.
Which is, it's always nice to see these officials getting in on the emoji lingo. There were also bribery allegations, again, which we don't need to detail, but there was a fun moment where Senator Menendez was found Googling, how much does 1 kilo of gold, how much is it worth? I guess I've never Googled that, so I don't know how much it's worth.
Shall we look it up?
So hopefully he knows. Well, no, maybe when we reach out to him at some point, we can get that information. But again, this is talking about the foreign agents, foreign lobbyists, networks. In this case, in the United States, but by no means limited to the U.S. or to these regimes themselves.
Yeah. Well, speaking of foreign agents, I've got something in my hand.
Oh boy. Is it a kilo of gold?
It's worth it.
It's worth significantly. It's worth significantly less.
It's a book.
Literally not worth its weight in gold.
It's a book called Foreign Agents. It's an advanced reader copy. It's how American lobbyists and lawmakers threaten democracy around the world, and it's written by you.
Oh, that's my book.
It is your
book.
book.
That's right. I'm glad we have the galleys in. We have the advanced reader copies, and we have a few of them sitting on our desk. If any of our listeners want to come by.
Casey, I was flipping through it, and I was scanning a little bit, and it looks good so far. I did notice that my name wasn't anywhere in it, though.
Well, here's the thing. It's an advanced copy. It's not the final copy.
Okay, so there's time to
work our way toward it. Omar, if you want to get in there, I'm going to have to hear you say yes. No mic for Omar. Oh, it's okay. I'll see.
He could be a silent, quiet mention.
That's right. Well, he's certainly a silent partner of this podcast. Shout out to our producer Omar.
He's the best.
Absolutely. But yes, this
Tell us
is
about the book.
this
It's out in
is.
August.
I mean, this is again to bring things back to Mr. Menendez. The manuscript was finalized, and then all these allegations came out against Senator Menendez. So now there's an afterword. But the argument of the book, the point of the book, is looking at these networks of foreign agents, foreign lobbyists. And again, these are Americans working on behalf of foreign regimes, foreign dictatorships in Egypt and Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Russia and China and Venezuela and Cuba, elsewhere all around the world, and doing their dirty work in Washington to lobby American officials and lobby other Americans themselves, whitewash these regimes, spread their messaging, and impact to unsuspecting policymakers in the United States of America. I mean, look, I'm an American. I'm writing predominantly for American audiences about this American phenomenon.
Yeah.
And again, the caveat being it's not limited to the United States of America.
Right.
But it is the history of this industry stretching all the way back to the early 20th century, in which the gentleman who founded the public relations industry as we know it also ended up going to work on behalf of Mussolini, on behalf of the Soviets, and then eventually on behalf of the Nazis to do their, image laundering. And then fast forward to where we are in modern America, 21st century America, that legacy continuing. And now not
Is
only...
money worth it? Go on.
Well, I'll tell you, it's not only limited to the PR industry anymore. now it's consultants, now it's law firms, now it is, as I mentioned a moment ago, think tanks and universities, former officials, you name it. All these Americans running around Washington trying to get as much money as possible, trying to pocket as many of these dictatorships to then lobby on their behalf, work on their behalf, and whitewash these regimes, stifling dissent,
I just don't know how you
entrenching them
sleep
that
at
much
night.
further.
How do you sleep at night?
I mean, I don't sleep at night, as you can tell from my voice.
Yeah, well, you have better reasons, at least. They're, I don't know if the cute baby is a principled reason, but it's out in August of 20.
August of 2024, published by St. Martin's Press, and thanks for the shout out there.
You're welcome.
There, Elisha. It is. Again, there are some fun stories in there. There
What's a favorite? Do you have a favorite?
Well, I guess I have a couple favorites. I'll just mention two of them quickly. One of them is when a lobbyist from the kleptocratic regime in Azerbaijan came to me when I was working as a reporter in beautiful Houston, Texas, which I should mention is home to the world's greatest Lord of the Rings themed restaurant.
Right.
Shout out to our co-producer Talia for making sure I mentioned that.
Yeah. It doesn't serve lambast bread, though. It's by one neck
We'll
on
save
it.
that for a separate episode. She came to me and said, look, we'd love to fly you over to Azerbaijan. Part of a congressional delegation going over. You could be there, you could cover it, your readers are going to love it. And I go, okay, yeah, sure. That's an interesting idea. Maybe I could talk to my editor about seeing how that arrangement would work out. She goes, yeah, that's all fine and good. Just remember when you're there, don't write anything negative.
Of course.
About the regime, about because some people just want to do that. And I go, oh, okay, yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen.
I'm not going to go.
And here we are 10 years later, and one of my favorite things to do is absolutely slam the regime over there for how horrific the Ilham Aliyev dictatorship truly is. And that's in there. The second one is when a professor demanded to know my cholesterol count, she was working on behalf of another dictatorship. Anyways, I still don't know my cholesterol count. I guess I should at some point, but we'll save that for the read.
Okay. I need to know. What chapter is that in?
Yeah, it's one of them. But I promise it's a quick read, and hopefully folks will have some fun with it along the way.
Very cool.
Thanks, Elisha.
All right, Casey, what else do we have to talk about?
Well, Elisha, I know everyone's talking about the Golden Globes.
Right.
The other day, the awards ceremony to end all awards ceremony. But I got to tell you, just a few weeks ago, there was another award ceremony that look.
You're a part of, right?
On my end, and look, I'm a little biased. I was part of it, but I got to tell you, it might be a little more important.
It might be weightier than a Golden Globe. It's weight in gold.
Yes,
Let's just keep that as an.
Again.
I don't know why I'm doing this with my hands, but
Yeah,
you guys can't see what I'm doing with my hands.
Don't know how to describe what you're doing with your hands. We'll just say it looks like someone who just Googled how much does a kilo of gold
That's
worth.
exactly right. Yeah.
But this was an award that's been going on since 2012. It's organized by the fine folks, the phenomenal folks at the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, OCCRP. And if a lot of folks are familiar with this organization, they were the ones that really led the way in breaking the news about things like the Panama Papers back in 2016. Really kind of the leading international investigative journalistic outfit.
They're fierce. Miranda Petrushka.
Petrushka, is now the editor-in-chief over there. Drew Sullivan was the leader there for years and years. And look, they have been leading the way on this for years. And they in 2012 created this new award, which folks were clamoring for, the Corrupt Person of the Year Award.
Tell us about it. How did you guys decide?
Well, this is, we had a lot of candidates to choose from. Let me say. So I was one of the judges this year. Now, look, I think people can get an idea of what we're trying to award. It's literally there in the title. Who has been the most corrupt person in any given year? Now, if you really wanted to mean that literally, you'd give it to, I don't know, Erdogan or Putin or Xi year in, year out. And that gets a little boring.
Tiring.
So this year, the winner was someone who I'm assuming very few people, if anyone, listening is actually familiar with. And that's part of the reason of the award. It was the Guatemalan Attorney General.
Oh, okay.
A woman named Maria Consuelo Porras, who, again, is one of these kind of almost no-name, overlooked officials that nevertheless plays a key cog, in many ways the key cog, in how authoritarian regimes entrench themselves. It's kind of the banality of evil, right, as Hannah Arendt would have said, or the banality of bureaucracy in this case. She has been one of the key figures in dismantling all of the democratic gains in Guatemala over the past few years. She was appointed as Attorney General in 2018 and has targeted all number of democratic officials, democratic organizations, investigating them, sicking the authorities on them, directing those administrative resources toward dismantling all of the democratic gains in Guatemala over the past few years. She was sanctioned by the United States of America in 2022. The European Union is currently considering her for sanctioning as well. And again, she's not flashy. She's not outspoken. She doesn't have this kind of great swagger or public presence. Very much operates in these kind of backroom dealings, very much operates in the background. But nonetheless,
I mean, that's the way to do it if you're going to be corrupt, right?
Well, that's certainly one way to do it. And for years, she was able to kind of get away with it until the last few years, when I think more and more folks realize, Guatemala had been this great democratic and anti-corruption success story. In the early through mid-2010s, there was a new investigative body set up that was really kind of one of these proof of concepts about how you target corrupt officials in the former regime. It's kind of almost like a lustration process. And then a new Guatemalan regime entered in the late 2010s that appointed her as Attorney General, and she was the spear tip dismantling all of these organizations, which is why OCCRP named her this year as the Corrupt Person of the Year.
What was the barometer in which you judged them?
Well,
barometer
and again, this is not necessarily someone who's stolen the most money. This is not someone who's she's obviously not leading, the head of the regime down there, but she is a personification of a position that is, again, the key cog in these administrative bureaucratic decisions that kleptocratic dictators rely on. They can't do these things themselves. They need to have these henchmen, or in this case, henchwomen, hench people, that act as their underlings, that are able to direct what it is the regime wants, what it is the regime needs, in order to remain in power, in order to continue pocketing all of the illicit goods, ill-gotten gains themselves. She is, and again, she's not going to be as nearly allegedly wealthy as the Erdogans or the Putins or the Xis of the world, but she is the kind of person, the kind of position that is key to the entrenchment of these regimes around the world.
Well, as they say, she may not be as rich, but you have to start somewhere. And that's what
certainly do.
As one of your fellow judges said, they called her, said she's protecting what has been called what Guatemala calls a pact of the corrupt. As you mentioned, involving businessmen and corrupt politicians, but also persecuting prosecutors, journalists, and activists. So
and look, these are officials, former generals, narco traffickers, organized crime. I mean, look, this is. We don't have all the time to get into domestic politics in Guatemala itself, but she is working at the behest of, on behalf of, truly the worst of Guatemalan society, to entrench that regime that much further. And again, to really unwind what had been one of the great success stories in the early mid-2010s in terms of post-authoritarian transitions, democratic transformation, anti-corruption, agitation, investigation, and implementation of the kind of policies that are needed. I should say that she's all, this award has been, OCCRP has been giving this award since 2012. She is the very first woman to receive this.
Congratulations, Maria.
Congratulations to her. And she supplants last year's winner, who is no longer with us, former Russian warlord Yevgeny Prigozhin, who I think a lot of folks might remember from leading the putsch or mutiny on Moscow last year, and then dying spectacularly in an airplane explosion.
I kind of like the way you guys went about that, because everyone, or most people who pay attention or know the Erdogans and the Putins, but I've definitely not heard that name. So I think it's good that you guys pointed out a name that most people wouldn't know and start putting her on the map and calling her out for her dirty dealings.
Well, on behalf of OCCRP and all of the judges, thank you, Elisha.
You're welcome. A good time, as usual, right, Casey?
A wonderful time.
But next week, we would like our listeners to know that you will not be with us.
I'll be out. I'll be traveling.
And so we'll have a co-host guest of honor.
Surprise guest.
A surprise guest.
Folks are going to enjoy it.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. We're going to have a lot of fun without you, but we'll miss you at the same time.
Well, look, I'm going to miss you as well.
Yeah.
And all the gold I'm sure you'll be collecting while I'm gone.
And I will be weighing it, so I know how much I have, actually.
Well, that's good. That's a great place to start, and it'll be interesting to see if you end up having more of that, worth more than, boy oh boy, this Harry Styles collector's doll is worth.
It's a real gem, isn't it? And also, if you guys may have heard some office noises, we ask your forgiveness. Our colleagues are so rudely working.
How dare they?
How dare they?
First of all,
How dare they?
that's okay.
Yeah.
We're happy to have them working, conversing, and building this democratic community while you and I just talk shop.
Yeah, it's a good time.
So anyways, I'll be back in 2 weeks. And next week, Elisha, it's all yours.
It's all mine. I'm going to take it over, y'all.
Good. It's about time.
Yes. All right, I'll see you in 2 weeks. I'll miss you.
Miss you too.
Okay. The Human Rights Foundation is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that promotes and protects human rights globally with a focus on closed societies. We promote freedom where it's most at risk in countries ruled by authoritarian regimes.